Late-night discovery. The air inside the golden arches hung heavy, a cloying blend of frying grease and quiet desperation. Elon, his bones aching after another hellish day, spent untangling bottlenecks on the Model Y line in Fremont, craved nothing more than simple sustenance, that he usually shunned fast food like a tech mogul avoids taxes. But tonight, fatigue overruled any semblance of healthy restraint that he gravitated toward the shortest queue. The overhead fluorescence buzzing like a disturbed hornet's nest. The restaurant was largely deserted, save for a couple of road-weary truckers nursing lukewarm coffees and a cluster of teenagers huddled in a corner booth, faces illuminated by the digital glow of their phones. Behind the counter, a young woman operated with a crisp efficiency that seemed jarringly out of place amidst the mundane he observed her. More than just flipping patties, she orchestrated the entire culinary ballet. She guided her less than enthusiastic colleagues with understated authority, her commands sharp and concise. She seemed to foresee glitches before they surfaced, preemptively restocking supplies, sanitizing surfaces, and generally keeping the whole greasy apparatus functioning. Her name tag identified her as Anya. The self-service kiosk beside Elon's lane sputtered and crashed, the screen erupting in a jumble of error messages that a wave of muted exasperation rolled through the sparse line. But before anyone could even locate management, Anya was already on the scene, and fumbling. No sighs, no eye rolls. Instead, she assessed the malfunction with a focused intensity that recalled the diagnostic precision of his engineers probing a faulty rocket engine. With swift, economical movements, she disconnected the machine, accessed a concealed panel, and initiated diagnostics via a handheld device pulled from her apron. Elon watched, captivated. He hadn't witnessed that level of concentrated problem-solving since he'd been wrestling with the battery management system yesterday alongside his team. Moments later, the kiosk sprang back to life, the familiar menu reappearing. Anya gave it a final tap, confirming its restored function, and then addressed the inconvenienced patrons with a faint, apologetic smile. "Sorry for the delay. IT should be working now." The line dissipated, murmuring appreciations. Elon remained rooted, his thoughts churning. He ordered a quarter-pounder with cheese and a large Coke, his gaze fixed on Anya. She was now back behind the counter, deftly assembling a complicated order while simultaneously coaching a new recruit on the intricacies of the milkshake machine. He paid for his meal, the cashier's robotic next. Barely registering, he claimed a booth near the counter, strategically positioned for optimum observation. He unwrapped his burger, took a deliberate bite, and chewed pensively, the processed meat doing little to quell his burgeoning curiosity. Why was someone so clearly capable toiling away in a McDonald's? It defied logic. He'd encountered raw potential before, uncut gems, individuals who'd been overlooked or undervalued. But Anya radiated a proficiency, a systematic approach to obstacles that far exceeded the demands of a fast food environment. He saw a customer complain about a missing straw. Anya didn't argue, didn't offer excuses. She simply procured a straw, apologized concisely, and presented the customer with a coupon for a complimentary McFlurry. The customer, initially disgruntled, departed with a smile. That IT wasn't merely technical aptitude. Elon observed IT was her ingenuity, her meticulousness, her capacity to manage pressure with both poise and effectiveness. These were the qualities he cherished in his own staff, the attributes that distinguish the innovators from the imitators, the visionaries from the followers. He took another bite of his burger, the artificial cheese now tasting suspiciously like cardboard. He needed answers. He needed to decipher the path that had led someone with Anya's potential to this apparent professional impasse. He mentally conjured explanations. Maybe she was working to fund her education. Perhaps she was the primary caregiver for her family. Perhaps a past mistake, a fateful misstep, had diverted her trajectory. Or perhaps, just perhaps, she was concealing something substantial. He finished his burger, the questions swirling within him like a gathering storm. He wadded the wrapper and discarded it in the adjacent trash receptacle. His course decided, He couldn't simply walk away. He couldn't ignore the insistent conviction that he was witnessing a catastrophic squandering of talent. He lingered until Anya experienced a brief reprieve from her duties. Then approached the counter. He leaned forward, his voice measured and intent. "Excuse me, Anya?" She glanced up, her eyes, a vivid emerald, widening slightly in surprise. "Yes, sir?" "I couldn't help but notice how efficiently you're running this place," Elon began, striving for casualness, although his pulse quickened with a blend of inquisitiveness and anticipation. "You seem overqualified." Anya's countenance changed subtly, a shadow of something, regret, fleeting across her features before she quickly masked it. "Thank you, sir. I just try to do my best." "What did you do before this?" Elon persisted, unable to resist the desire to cut to the heart of the matter. Anya hesitated, her gaze momentarily diverting. "It's not really pertinent," she responded softly, her voice barely audible. "Everything is pertinent," Elon countered, his tone firm but gentle, particularly when pertains to unrealized potential. He paused, then added, "I'm Elon Musk." The name seemed to elicit no recognition, that Anya's green eyes remained fixed on him, unwavering. "Okay," she said, a touch of skepticism flavoring her tone. "And I'm about to be unemployed if I don't get back to work. Can I help you with anything else, Mr. Musk?" Echoes of Tesla. Musk tapped a restless rhythm on the counter, the faux wood surface feeling strangely smooth beneath his fingertips. "I'll take a quarter-pounder with cheese, and surprise me with a shake." He kept his eyes on Anya, watching her deft movements as she punched in the order. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sterile glow on her face, highlighting the faint lines of fatigue around her eyes. "That'll be $6.87, she said, her voice neutral, devoid of any inflection. Musk paid, handing her as she made change. He ventured, "So, Anya, you seem overqualified for this, and offense intended." He winced internally. Smooth Elon, real smooth, that Anya's fingers stilled for a fraction of a second as she counted out the bills. "Everyone's qualified for something, Mr. Musk." Elon Musk. He watched for a flicker of recognition. "Nothing," he decided to press on. "I was just observing your efficiency. You optimize every movement. That it's remarkable." She handed him the change, her gaze unwavering. "It's called getting through the shift. Anything else?" He hesitated, the aroma of frying potatoes thick in the air. "Actually, yes, that I'm curious about her background." "What did you do before this?" Anya sighed, a barely audible expulsion of air. "Why do you care?" "Let's just say I'm interested in talent, and I think you've got it in spades." She finally looked directly at him, a spark of something he couldn't quite decipher flickering in her eyes. Defiance? Resignation? "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." "Try me." She leaned slightly closer, lowering her voice. "I used to be an engineer at Tesla." The air in Musk's lungs seemed to solidify as he stared at her, the noise of the McDonald's fading into a dull hum. Tesla Point, one of his engineers. Working at McDonald's, the irony was a physical blow, a gut-wrenching twist of fate. "You what?" He managed, his voice barely a whisper. "You heard me. Tesla. Palo Alto. Battery optimization, specifically." She recited it like a litany, a well-rehearsed explanation she'd probably given countless times. Which team? He needed details, that he needed to understand how this could have happened. Energy storage. Under Patel. Musk knew Patel, a brilliant but ruthless engineer, known for his demanding expectations and high turnover rate. "And you left?" "Not exactly. Let go. Restructuring, downsizing, pick your euphemism." She shrugged, but the movement lacked conviction. "They said my skill set wasn't aligned with the company's future direction." Musk felt a surge of anger, hot and immediate. He knew the company had gone through several reorganizations in the past few years. He'd signed off on them, of course, but he trusted his lieutenants to make the right decisions. Had they really let someone like Anya slip through the cracks? When was this? 18 months ago. Best severance package I could negotiate, and a lot of promises that evaporated faster than free ice cream on a hot day. Her voice was laced with bitterness, a stark contrast to the earlier neutrality. He pictured Anya in his mind, presenting her work, advocating for her ideas. Had her voice been heard? Had she been given a fair chance? Doubt not at him. He prided himself on fostering a meritocratic environment. But the reality, he knew, was often messier, more political. He ran a hand through his hair, feeling the familiar prickle of stress. "What have you been doing since?" Anya gestured around the McDonald's with a sardonic smile. Clearly, maximizing shareholder value, one burger at a time. The sarcasm stung. He deserved it. "Have you tried out applying elsewhere?" "Everywhere. My resume probably holds up half the websites on Indeed by now. Overqualified is the polite way they put it. Too expensive is the honest one." Musk's mind raced. This wasn't just about finding a talented engineer. This was about fixing a systemic failure, about righting a wrong. He felt a familiar surge of determination, the same fire that had fueled him through countless sleepless nights and near-impossible deadlines. He looked at Anya, really looked at her. He saw not just a McDonald's employee, but a person whose potential had been squandered, a mind that had been left to atrophy. And he felt a profound sense of responsibility. His quarter pounder sat untouched on the counter, the fries growing cold in their cardboard container. The shake, a sickly sweet concoction of artificial flavors, remained a mystery. He had more pressing matters to attend to. "Anya," he said, his voice firm, all trace of hesitation gone. "I want to help you." The Fremont video. The aroma of frying potatoes hung heavy in the air, a greasy perfume that did little to soothe Anya's frayed nerves. "All right," she declared, hitching up the sleeves of her uniform. "Run it by me one more time." Despite the outlandish circumstances, a jolt of authentic excitement coursed through Musk, but he feigned checking his messages, his fingers instead activating the phone's video function. "The ice cream dispenser," he murmured, lowering his voice. "Error 734. It stumped everyone. Been out of commission for 3 days running." Anya's brow knit together. Error 734. That usually points to a faulty freezing cylinder temperature regulator or its associated control board. Did anyone think to check the wiring loom? "The what now?" Musk countered, playing the naive card. "Doubt it. Probably just hit the reset button a few times." A sigh escaped Anya, laden with weariness. Rarely the cure-all. "Mind if I take a look?" With a winning smile aimed at the perplexed teenager manning the drive-thru, Musk guided her behind the counter. Anya's got a background in robotics, he offered vaguely, just indulging her curiosity. The teenager, swamped by a snaking line of cars, merely shrugged. The ice cream machine, a stainless steel monument to frozen desserts, stood before them like a slumbering giant. Anya circled it, her gaze sweeping over panels, vents, and connections. She trailed her fingertips across the cool surface, a probing touch. "Where are the schematics?" she inquired, still scrutinizing the machine. "Schematics?" Musk chuckled, likely gathering dust in some forgotten archive. Anya's lips thinned. She snagged a Phillips head screwdriver from a surprisingly well-equipped toolbox and began dismantling the access panel. Musk watched, intrigued, as she deftly exposed the inner workings, a chaotic web of wires and circuit boards. Anya hummed, peering into the depths. "Aha, the sensor wires looking a little frayed, and some oxidation on the control board terminals." She indicated the spots with the screwdriver. "See? Intermittent signals would definitely throw this code." Musk zoomed in, capturing the critical details with his phone. He could almost taste the untapped potential radiating from her, the profound understanding she possessed. IT was infuriating to witness such expertise squandered on fast food. He observed as she carefully disconnected the wire and began cleaning the corroded connectors with a small brush she'd unearthed in the toolbox. Her movements were fluid, assured. She clearly knew her stuff. A wave of resentment washed over Musk, not toward Anya, but toward Tesla. How many other gifted engineers have been lost in the post-restructuring fallout? How many bright sparks were currently languishing, their talent suppressed by bureaucratic red tape or myopic leadership? The realization stung. Tesla was predicated on innovation, on stretching the limits of possibility. But how could they truly excel if they failed to recognize and cultivate their own people? He pictured the performance evaluations, The endless spreadsheets, the arbitrary metrics. That often favored conformity over ingenuity. IT was a flawed mechanism, prone to missing the hidden gems, the individuals who didn't necessarily fit the corporate mold but possessed the innate intelligence and drive to revolutionize. Anya reconnected the wire and resecured the panel. "All right," she announced, wiping her hands on a rag. "Let's fire it up." She punched the power button. The machine word thrummed and then, gloriously, began to churn no error messages. Just a satisfying symphony of ice cream in production. The drive-through teenager goggled, his jaw slack. "Whoa," he breathed. "You actually fixed it." Anya managed a small, tired smile. "Fingers crossed. Keep an eye on it, that if the code reappears, the control board itself might be the culprit." Musk ceased recording. He felt a rush of triumph, tempered by a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't merely about finding Anya a different job. It was about addressing a fundamental deficiency within Tesla, a weakness that threatened to hobble its progress. That he clapped Anya on the shoulder. "Incredible," he said, his voice ringing with genuine admiration. "Absolutely incredible." He checked his watch. "I should probably get going." A pause. "I'll be in touch. Soon, I promise." He exited the McDonald's, the reek of French fries clinging stubbornly to his clothing. The video resided securely on his phone, a powerful piece of evidence that he knew precisely what needed to be done, that he needed to show this video to the right people, that he needed to shake things up, he needed to remind everyone at Tesla what real talent looked like, and what they risked by letting it atrophy. Confronting the executive team. The stark Tesla conference room emitted a low thrum, a stark contrast to the electric anticipation prickling the air. Circling the glossy mahogany table sat the executive leadership, expressions a blend of polite interest and barely concealed irritation. Musk, perched forward, a playful spark in his gaze, brandished the remote as though commanding an orchestra. "All right, team," he began, his voice resonating within the expansive chamber. "I want to unveil something, an idea with the power to revolutionize how we perceive talent at Tesla." He tapped play. The shaky footage from his phone filled the screen. Anya, in her McDonald's uniform, her brow creased in focus as she battled the temperamental ice cream dispenser. The lens jiggled, immersing them in the fast food clamor. The hiss of the griddle shouted orders, the relentless beep of timers, as Anya deftly sidestepped the malfunctioning sensor and coaxed the machine back to life. A ripple of murmurs circulated the room. The executives exchanged sidelong glances, a silent dialogue of doubt threading between them. The clip concluded. Musk froze the frame, Anya's triumphant grin hanging in the air. "Compelling, wouldn't you say?" he posed, a challenge woven into his tone. Silence. Then, Jonathan, the CFO, cleared his throat. "Elon, respectfully, we manage a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that we're pioneering space travel, crafting autonomous vehicles." He trailed off, the absurdity of this preoccupation hanging unspoken. "Precisely," I shot back, leaning in. "We accomplish all this, yet we allow incredible individuals to slip through the cracks." Anya was once a robotics engineer here, but a remarkably skilled one. It seems restructuring claimed her, and now she mends ice cream machines. This isn't a singular case. Jonathan, IT signals a systemic breakdown. Sarah, the head of HR, arched a perfectly sculpted brow. "Elon, we employ stringent performance evaluations. If an employee wasn't meeting expectations, there were grounds for it. Performance reviews are fallible." "Sarah," Musk retorted, impatience edging his voice. "They are subjective assessments, often skewed, and they disregard the inherent capacity for growth and adaptation." That Anya's predicament exemplifies this. She was demonstrably underestimated, her value overlooked. "We can find her," and then discarded her. He gestured towards the screen. "Observe her. She didn't just repair the machine. She swiftly diagnosed the root cause. That's problem-solving acumen. That's inventive spirit. Precisely the cognitive firepower we require. Fixated on poaching top talent from competitors, we overlook the latent potential flourishing within our ranks." David, The VP of engineering entered the fray, his tone deliberate. Elon, I grasp your sentiment. Yet we oversee thousands of employees that we cannot meticulously chart each individual's career trajectory. And realistically, upskilling initiatives are costly and frequently yield limited returns. Musk's palms struck the table, the abrupt report eliciting startled reactions. Costly? Ineffective? What expenditure eclipses the loss of brilliant minds? What endeavor proves more futile than squandering the potential of our own workforce? He rose, traversing the length of the room, his dynamic presence permeating the atmosphere. We must construct a framework that enables lateral movement, facilitates exploration of diverse roles, and encourages the acquisition of new proficiencies. We must nurture a culture of second chances, of perpetual advancement, that we must unearth the hidden jewels within Tesla, the Anyas tinkering with ice cream contraptions when they should be conceiving robots. He halted, his gaze locking with each member of the team. Consider this. How many other gifted individuals are we neglecting? How much untapped capability lies dormant within this organization? We are architecting the future, for God's sake, that we cannot afford such a flagrant waste of human capital. Silence descended, broken only by the barely audible whir of the ventilation. The executives shifted, their initial skepticism slowly yielding to an unwilling admiration for Musk's fervent conviction. He possessed a knack for slicing through corporate jargon and laying bare the core issue. Sarah, the head of HR, finally spoke, her tone now more subdued. All right, Elon, I concede your point, but how would we even embark on such an endeavor? It necessitates a comprehensive transformation of our established systems. Musk grinned, a genuine smile illuminating his features. I have some preliminary designs, he replied, his voice radiating enthusiasm. Let's initiate a pilot program. Identify personnel who are under-challenged, who have voiced aspirations for alternative roles. Furnish them with training, mentorship, avenues to explore new domains that lets witness their capabilities. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of his executive team. This transcends merely improving Tesla. IT concerns forging a superior world, a world where every individual possesses the chance to realize their fullest potential, a world where talent is esteemed and cultivated, irrespective of its origin. The prevailing tension began to dissipate, supplanted by cautious optimism. The executives, initially resistant, now felt a pull of intrigue that Musk's unshakable faith in human potential proved contagious, and even the most entrenched cynics found themselves drawn to his grand vision. The challenge of enacting such a fundamental shift loomed large, yet the prospective rewards proved too compelling to dismiss at a second chance. We're calling it Second Chance, Elon declared, leaning back. The Tesla logo shimmered within the depths of his focused stare. A weighty silence gripped the conference room, flavored with both intrigue and doubt. The rhythmic tap of his pen against the polished table punctuated the air. A pilot program. For the engineers, the designers, the minds that once powered Tesla but departed for life's inevitable detours. Family obligations, the clutches of burnout. Whatever their reason, we offer a structured route back. He indicated the flowchart glowing on the screen. A concentrated period of upskilling, the latest tech, evolved protocols, paired with mentorship, and a guaranteed project molded to their talents, pays for reentry, not immediate immersion. Rebecca Sterling, head of HR, her expression troubled, leaned forward. Elon, the initiative, it's bold that we conduct exit interviews. We know why people leave. The dominant themes are stress, unsustainable hours, the elusive work-life balance. Are we genuinely proposing we invite them back into the very pressure cooker they escaped? The climate is evolving, Rebecca, Elon retorted, a sharp edge in his tone. That's the crux of this endeavor. And let's be honest, our exit interviews barely scratch the surface, and no one wants to torch bridges that we receive polite, whitewashed accounts. He paused, his gaze sweeping the room, lingering. I'm specifically thinking of Anya Sharma. A palpable unease rippled through the room. Anya Sharma held legendary status in certain circles, a brilliant battery engineer whose departure 2 years prior, citing familial obligations, had stung deeply. Anya, Lars Hedegaard, VP of Engineering, finally ventured, disbelief coloring his words. She was exceptional, granted, but she's been out of circulation for 2 years. This industry sprints at warp speed. I honestly question her ability to regain lost ground. That's the precise purpose of the retraining and mentorship. Lars, Elon snapped back. Are we to assume that genius just atrophies after a brief absence? That motherhood and engineering prowess are mutually exclusive? Lars squirmed. It's not about motherhood, Elon. That's practicality, that we face deadlines, that we have stringent performance targets, that we can't afford to handhold someone back to competence. Handhold? Elon's voice gained volume. We're talking about Anya Sharma, the very person who almost single-handedly cracked the thermal runaway puzzle in the Model 3 battery pack. This isn't some green recruit fresh out of university. With respect, Elon, Rebecca interjected, striving to de-escalate the tension. We maintain a demanding recruitment system, that we have a steady stream of top graduates clamoring to join from the elite institutions. Why would we prioritize someone who voluntarily resigned, someone whose expertise risks being obsolete? Because, Elon murmured, his voice barely audible, because talent isn't a widget you pluck from a catalog, that it's a seed that requires tending, and we allowed Anya's seed to wither till we failed her. Now, we possess a chance to rectify that lapse. He leaned forward, his eyes burning with fierce conviction. I want Anya and offer to join this program. Design the curriculum to precisely address her needs. Pair her with our most insightful engineer as a guiding hand. Assign a project that stretches her, yet remains attainable. Then, let's witness what she's capable of. Lars remained dubious. What if she falters, Elon? What message does that convey to the rest of the workforce? That it's acceptable to abandon ship, take a sabbatical, then saunter back expecting preferential treatment. It broadcasts that Tesla champions second chances, Elon countered. That we cherish our people. That we comprehend the unpredictable nature of life, and that we are prepared to invest in their inherent potential, even when it has lain dormant. He rose, his gaze encompassing the room. This transcends Anya.it, involves reshaping the very DNA of this company. Acknowledging that human beings are not automatons. They possess lives, families, adversities, and if we aspire to attract and retain the world's most exceptional individuals, we must foster an ecosystem where they feel supported, valued, and afforded a second chance when necessary. His steely gaze locked onto Lars. I anticipate a detailed proposal on my desk by weeks end, outlining a reentry framework for Anya Sharma. IS that understood. Silence permeated the room. Lars, outmaneuvered, gave a grudging nod. Understood, Elon. Elon nodded curtly. Good. Now let's resume shaping the future. As the meeting dispersed, Rebecca lingered behind. Elon, she said quietly, I appreciate your fervor on this issue. But are you certain this is the optimal allocation of our resources? We could channel those funds into bolstering existing employee benefits, enhancing work-life balance for everyone. Elon sighed, raking a hand through his hair. Rebecca, those considerations are significant, absolutely vital. But this is distinct. This is about broadcasting a belief, about demonstrating that we are more than simply a profit-driven entity, that we are a company that genuinely values its people. And often, that value manifests as granting a second chance. He paused, a hint of vulnerability flickering in his eyes. Everyone merits a second chance, Rebecca. Hesitations and hope. The phone rang just as Anya was wrestling a rogue spring back into Ricardo's ancient espresso machine. The display read unknown number, and her first instinct was to ignore it. Telemarketers were relentless, but something made her hesitate. She wiped her hands on a rag, picked up the receiver, and spoke with a wary, Hello, Anya Petrova? The voice was crisp, efficient, and held a faint Silicon Valley cadence. This is Sarah Chun from Tesla, calling on behalf of Mr. Musk. Anya froze, the spring momentarily forgotten. Tesla? Her Tesla? The one she'd left, not entirely by choice, almost 2 years ago. Yes, this is Anya. Sarah Chan explained the Second Chance program, carefully omitting the McDonald's origin story. She painted a picture of a renewed Tesla, a place where talent was cherished and past departures weren't necessarily permanent. She spoke of new projects, exciting opportunities, and a commitment to fostering a more supportive work environment. Anya listened, a knot forming in her stomach. It sounded too good to be true. We understand your circumstances when you left, Sarah continued, her voice softening slightly. And Mr. Musk believes your skills and experience would be invaluable. We'd like to offer you a position on the new battery optimization team. Anya's mind raced. The battery optimization team. That was her passion. That's what she dreamt of working on back then, before the long hours had chipped away at her resolve, before the pressure had become unbearable. I don't know what to say, she stammered, surprised by the tremor in her voice. There's no need to decide right now, Anya. Think it over that we can schedule a call with the team lead. Answer any questions you might have. That we just want you to know that you're valued, and we'd love to have you back. Sarah gave her a number and a deadline, then wished her a good day. Anya stared at the phone, the silence amplified by the rhythmic whir of Ricardo's ancient refrigerator. She felt a dizzying mix of elation and apprehension. Elation at the validation, the recognition that her skills were still sought after. Apprehension at the thought of returning to that pressure cooker, that relentless pursuit of perfection that had nearly broken her. Ricardo emerged from the back, wiping his own hands on a grease-stained apron. Everything okay, Anya? You look like you've seen a ghost. She told him everything, the offer, the program, the faint glimmer of hope it sparked. He listened patiently, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he simply nodded. Tesla, huh. Well, they always did. No talent when they saw it. He paused, then added, but you know what you went through. Anya, don't let the shiny promises blind you. That night, sleep eluded her. She tossed and turned, replaying her last months at Tesla, the impossible deadlines, the condescending remarks from her team lead, the gnawing feeling that she was failing, both at work and at home. She remembered the crushing disappointment when she realized she couldn't juggle it all, the shame of admitting defeat, but she also remembered the thrill of solving a complex problem, the satisfaction of seeing her designs come to life, the camaraderie she'd shared with a few of her colleagues during late-night coding sessions. Engineering wasn't just a job. It was a part of her, a way of expressing her creativity and intellect. Had she given up on that too easily? The next morning, she woke with a resolve she hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just about a job. It was about proving to herself that she could succeed, that she was capable, that she hadn't lost her edge. She found Ricardo polishing glasses behind the counter. The cafe was quiet, the early morning sun, casting long shadows across the checkered floor. I'm going to do it, she said, her voice firm. Ricardo stopped polishing, his gaze meeting hers. Going to do what, Anya? I'm going back to Tesla. He studied her for a moment, then a slow smile spread across his face. Well, I'll be. You really are something, you know that. Just don't let them work you to the bone. Remember why you left in the first place. I won't, Anya promised, a surge of determination coursing through her. This time, I'll be different, that I'll be stronger, and I'll make sure they know what I'm worth. Ricardo chuckled and clapped her on the shoulder. That's my girl. Now, how about a strong cup of coffee? You're going to need it. As Anya sipped her coffee, she felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. It was a small flame, fragile and vulnerable, but it was there, and she was determined to nurture it, to protect it, and to let it guide her back to the world she thought she had lost forever. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, she knew that, but this time she wouldn't be alone. She had Ricardo's support, and, more importantly, she had her own unwavering belief in her abilities. This was her second chance, and she wasn't going to waste it. The re-entry gauntlet. The fluorescent lights of the Tesla training facility hummed, a sterile counterpoint to the nervous energy thrumming within Anya de re-entry. The name itself felt loaded, a promise and a threat rolled into one. The first week was a whirlwind of mandatory workshops, advanced battery management systems, AI-powered diagnostics, and even a surprisingly insightful session on team dynamics led by a woman with a calming voice and a stack of well-worn psychology books. Anya, however, found herself more comfortable buried in the technical manuals. She absorbed information like a sponge, her fingers flying across the keyboard during simulations, her brow furrowed in concentration as she dissected complex algorithms. The simulations were brutal. They threw everything at her: thermal runaway events, voltage fluctuations, unexpected power surges, scenarios designed to break even seasoned engineers. Anya, however, met them head-on. She remembered the sting of dismissal, the feeling of inadequacy that had gnawed at her for months. That feeling fueled her now, a burning ember igniting her focus. One evening, hunched over a particularly thorny problem involving a rogue AI predicting battery degradation, Anya felt a familiar wave of frustration wash over her. The algorithm was spitting out contradictory data, leading her down blind alleys. She slammed her laptop shut, the abrupt sound echoing in the otherwise empty lab. "Rough night?" Ricardo's voice, calm and steady, cut through the silence. He leaned against the doorway, a travel mug in his hand. "Thought you might need some caffeine and a fresh perspective." Anya managed a weak smile. "This AI is mocking me." Ricardo, "I swear it is." Ricardo chuckled, handing her the mug. The rich aroma of dark roast coffee filled her nostrils. "AIs don't mock, Anya. They just do what they're programmed to do, even if it's wrong." "Tell me about it." For the next hour, Anya walked Ricardo through the problem, explaining the algorithm's flawed logic, the conflicting data points, the dead end she had encountered. Ricardo listened patiently, occasionally asking clarifying questions, never offering solutions, but guiding her back to first principles. He reminded her of her own meticulous process, her ability to see patterns where others saw chaos. "Have you considered looking at the initial conditions, the AI's starting assumptions?" Ricardo finally asked, after Anya had exhausted her explanation. Anya frowned. "I assumed the initial conditions were validated, standard procedure." "Assumptions," Ricardo said gently, "are the mother of all fiascos, especially in engineering." His words struck a chord. Anya reopened her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard, retracing her steps, this time focusing on the initial conditions. And there it was at a subtle error in the data feed, a mislabeled variable that was throwing the entire algorithm off track, at a mistake anyone could have made, but one that had eluded her for hours. A wave of relief washed over her. "You're a lifesaver, Ricardo," she said, a genuine smile spreading across her face. "Just pointing you in the right direction," he said, his eyes twinkling. "You did all the work." The days that followed were a blur of coding, testing, and refining. Anya worked tirelessly, fueled by a renewed sense of purpose. She found herself collaborating with other members of the reentry program, sharing insights, and supporting each other through the inevitable setbacks. The competitive atmosphere she remembered from her first stint at Tesla seemed muted, replaced by a sense of camaraderie. One afternoon, during a particularly challenging simulation involving a cascading failure in a battery pack, Anya found herself drawing on knowledge she hadn't even realized she possessed. She remembered a technical paper she had read years ago, a theoretical model for predicting and mitigating thermal runaway events. She adapted the model to the simulation, tweaking parameters and adjusting variables until, finally, the cascading failure was contained. The simulation stabilized, the battery pack recovered, and the room erupted in applause. Anya, flushed with pride and exhaustion, leaned back in her chair, a sense of accomplishment washing over her. She had faced the reentry gauntlet, and she had emerged victorious. But she knew this was just the beginning. The real test lay ahead, back on the factory floor, where theory met reality and where the stakes were infinitely higher. Battery breakthrough. The simulation dissolved, replaced with a triumphant green pass blazing across the monitor. Anya exhaled slowly, a faint smile gracing her lips. The reentry gauntlet, with its grueling schedule and exacting standards, was finally behind her. Ricardo materialized beside her, his grin infectious. "Anya, you absolutely nailed it." That final tweak to the thermal regulation, pure brilliance. He clapped her shoulder, a friendly gesture that still felt novel, not quite the Ricardo she remembered. Yet, she welcomed the camaraderie. "Thanks, Ricardo," she responded, her voice a little creaky from disuse after weeks lost in code. "Your insights on the AI's logic loops were critical." He brushed it off with a dismissive wave. "Just nudge you in the right direction. You carried the weight." His expression shifted, becoming earnest. "Anya, I know it was rough going before, but you've shown incredible resilience, undeniable talent. Never let anyone dim that spark again." His simple words struck a chord. IT wasn't just about passing the program. It was about validating her own potential. The following day, Anya stood in a conference room overlooking the Gigafactory, its sprawling complex a vibrant tableau of innovation. 3 unfamiliar senior engineers and a project manager awaited her. The air thrummed with expectation. "Welcome back, Anya." The project manager, Sarah, greeted her, her gaze sharp, her haircut even sharper. "You're assigned to Project Nightingale. That it's pivotal." Sarah indicated a lanky engineer with perpetually fatigued eyes. "David will provide the specifics, but the essence is this. We're pushing the limits of battery density, attempting to extract more range from our current cell configuration. That it's a critical bottleneck, and we need a game changer." David launched into a rapid-fire technical briefing, a torrent of acronyms, chemical formulas, and intricate schematics. Anya listened intently, her mind already churning, spotting potential pitfalls and conceiving possible remedies. The challenge loomed large, bolstering energy density without sacrificing stability or longevity. Many had attempted and failed. Relegated to a modest lab nestled in a remote corner of the factory, Anya plunged into the project. Days bled into nights as she sifted through data, conducted simulations, and experimented with various materials. The initial weeks proved discouraging. Progress trickled forward, measured in mere fractions of a percent. Doubt, a shadowy echo from the past, began to resurface. One late night, fueled by stale coffee and sheer tenacity, Anya was wrestling with an especially perplexing dataset when a connection sparked. She'd been so intent on refining the existing electrolyte composition that she'd overlooked a fundamental weakness in the cell's construction, the distribution of conductive material within the anode. The existing model, she surmised, created choke points, impeding electron flow and limiting overall efficiency. It was akin to trying to draw water through a crimped hose. The solution, she theorized, involved a complete overhaul of the anode structure, incorporating a cutting-edge three-dimensional framework to maximize surface area and guarantee uniform conductivity. IT was a gamble, a decidedly unconventional approach. Yet, the deeper she delved, the more persuaded she became that it held the answer. For the ensuing week, Anya toiled relentlessly, crafting a detailed model of her proposed anode design. She ran endless simulations, fine-tuning parameters, and optimizing performance. The results were encouraging, surpassing even her most optimistic projections. The new design displayed a marked increase in energy density, coupled with enhanced thermal stability and reduced internal resistance. Finally, she presented her findings to the team. The initial reaction was lukewarm. Her ideas were too avant-garde, too divergent from established norms. David, the weary-eyed engineer, was particularly dubious. "It's just a simulation, Anya," he scoffed. "Real-world results are a different animal." Sarah, however, detected a glimmer of genuine innovation in Anya's presentation. "Let's validate it," she declared, silencing the skepticism. "Build a prototype that let's see if it delivers." The subsequent weeks passed in a flurry of activity. Anya collaborated closely with the manufacturing team to construct the prototype anode. IT was an intricate endeavor, demanding exacting precision in material deposition and meticulous assembly. There were snags and roadblocks along the way, moments when the entire undertaking seemed doomed to collapse. But Anya pressed on, propelled by her unwavering faith in her design. At last, the prototype was complete. IT was a compact, unassuming component, yet it harbored the potential to transform battery technology. The team convened in the testing lab, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Anya held her breath as they connected the prototype to the testing apparatus. The voltage meter flickered to life, and then, nothing but a collective groan swept through the room. David smirked. "I told you it wouldn't pan out." But then, the meter began to climb. Gradually at first, then with increasing momentum, until it reached a level significantly exceeding any of their previous prototypes. The room erupted in applause. Anya felt a wave of relief wash over her, followed by an overwhelming surge of accomplishment. The prototype had not only functioned, it had shattered expectations that IT was a bona fide breakthrough. Anya had succeeded. She had validated her worth, not merely to the team, but to herself. The future, for the first time in what felt like forever, looked promising. Anya's recognition. The tweet detonated across the internet, a digital big bang. Anya, immersed in deciphering data from her anode prototype, figures hinting at an almost impossible energy density, nearly missed the explosion that she'd muted all alerts, lost in the thrill of discovery. Ricardo, practically vibrating with excitement, invaded her secluded corner of the lab. His grin threatened to unhinge his jaw. "Anya, have you seen this?" He thrust his phone forward at Elon's Twitter feed, stared back at her. The usual fare of rocket updates and cryptic pronouncements was broken by a stark declaration. Tesla's trajectory is assured, thanks to the groundbreaking work of Anya Sharma. Redemption stories are powerful. Invest in potential. A candid shot of Anya, brow furrowed in concentration at a microscope, accompanied the text. Anya gaped. This wasn't mere acknowledgement. It was a full-throated, public endorsement that sent a wave of butterflies through her. Ricardo bounced on the balls of his feet. He mentioned Project Nightingale, called it a quantum leap in battery innovation that everyone's losing their minds. He wasn't kidding. Stepping onto the main engineering floor, Anya encountered a vibrant hum of activity. Engineers congregated around screens, gesturing and animatedly conversing. Spotting her, several erupted in spontaneous applause. A champagne cork popped, rocketing skyward. Congratulatory messages poured in, emails, texts, LinkedIn requests from complete strangers. Her phone became a persistent thrum against her leg. A bewildering mix of elation and disbelief washed over her. She'd anticipated promise, but not this magnitude of recognition, particularly from Elon himself. The initial wave was overwhelmingly positive. Media outlets latched onto the narrative, painting it as a triumph of second chances and testament to Tesla's commitment to nurturing unconventional talent. Human interest stories bloomed, charting Anya's metamorphosis from stay-at-home mom to cutting-edge engineer. Comment sections swelled with encouraging words and admiration. Yet, a subtle current of negativity began to bubble beneath the celebratory surface. It festered in the anonymous corners of online forums, those ever-present breeding grounds for cynicism. Some questioned the story's authenticity, accusing Tesla of manufacturing a feel-good PR campaign. Others dismissed Anya's achievement as mere happenstance, attributing her success to opportune timing. Then came the whispers, hushed exchanges in hallways, sidelong glances in the break room. The engineers who had once looked down on her return, who had openly doubted her abilities, now had to grapple with the undeniable reality of her breakthrough. Some offered grudging congratulations, their words tinged with barely concealed envy. Others avoided her altogether, their faces tight with resentment. Mark Olson, the senior engineer who had been particularly dismissive of Anya's reentry simulation results, maintained a conspicuous silence. He averted his gaze, sidestepping her in the corridor, feigning obliviousness. Anya caught the flicker of pique in his expression, the unspoken admission that she had not only succeeded but surpassed him. The most satisfying moment arrived during a team meeting. Olson, attempting to reassert his dominance, launched into a scathing critique of a different project, his tone laced with condescension. Anya, observing in quiet contemplation, finally interjected. "Mark, with all due respect," she began, her voice measured but firm. I believe your analysis overlooks a critical element. Have you factored in the potential for thermal runaway and its impact on overall efficiency? Olson sputtered. Caught off guard, he tried to brush aside her point, but Anya persisted, delivering a detailed explanation grounded in empirical data. The room hushed as she methodically dismantled his argument, exposing its logical fallacies. Finally, Olson capitulated, his face crimson with embarrassment. Perhaps you're correct, he mumbled, defeated. Anya refrained from any triumphant display. She simply nodded, continuing the meeting with a quiet authority that quashed any lingering doubts about her capabilities. The episode served as a potent reminder that tangible results drown out skeptical voices. Later, as Anya finally drove home, bone-tired but strangely invigorated, she received a direct message from Elon. Succinct and to the point, it read, "Keep pushing the envelope, Anya. The future hinges on it." A smile touched her lips. The pressure was immense, yet so was the opportunity. She was no longer just validating her own potential. She was contributing to something monumental, something transformative, and she was accomplishing it on her own terms as a scientist, an engineer, and a mother. This second chance wasn't simply a gift. It was a profound responsibility, one Anya Sharma was wholly prepared to meet. Inspiring millions. The morning after Anya's presentation felt surreal. The news cycle had fully embraced the McDonald's engineer saves Tesla narrative. Anya's face was splashed across news websites and television screens, a beaming smile accompanying headlines that screamed about second chances and the power of human potential. The articles weren't just about her battery breakthrough. They were about her journey, the initial setback, the quiet dignity of her time at McDonald's, and the triumphant return. Anya, usually glued to scientific journals, found herself strangely fascinated by the coverage. One article in the Harvard Business Review particularly resonated with her. IT lauded Tesla's Second Chance program as a model for corporate America, arguing that companies needed to move beyond rigid hiring practices and invest in the untapped potential of their existing workforce. The piece highlighted the cost of losing skilled employees, not just in terms of recruitment expenses, but also the loss of institutional knowledge and the disruption to team dynamics. The phone calls started pouring in, not just from media outlets clamoring for interviews, but from other companies, tech giants, manufacturing conglomerates, even traditional automakers, all seeking insights into Tesla's reskilling initiative. They wanted to know the specifics of the program, the selection criteria, the training modules, and, of course, how to identify potential Anya Sharmas within their own ranks. Elon characteristically reveled in the attention that he tweeted a picture of Anya holding a prototype battery, captioning it, "Proof that talent is everywhere, opportunity isn't. Let's change that. Hashtag second chances, hashtag Tesla." The tweet went viral, further amplifying the message and solidifying Anya as a symbol of hope and reinvention. But the real impact, Anya realized, wasn't just in the headlines or the corporate boardroom discussions. That IT was in the messages she received from ordinary people. Emails and LinkedIn messages flooded her inbox, each one a testament to the power of her story. Single mothers who had put their careers on hold to raise families, veterans struggling to re-enter the workforce, immigrants facing language barriers. They all saw themselves in Anya's journey and found inspiration in her success. One message stood out, that IT was from a woman named Maria, a former software engineer who had left her job after battling postpartum depression. She wrote, "Your story gave me the courage to dust off my coding skills and start applying again. Thank you for showing me that. It's never too late to start over." This was more significant than any scientific accolade. This was about making a real difference in people's lives. Tesla, emboldened by the positive publicity and the demonstrable success of the Second Chance program, expanded the initiative. They partnered with local community colleges and vocational schools to offer specialized training programs for employees who wanted to upgrade their skills or transition into different roles within the company. Anya, despite her demanding workload, became a passionate advocate for the program. She volunteered to mentor other employees, sharing her experiences and offering guidance. She started a series of workshops on battery technology, simplifying complex concepts and making them accessible to a wider audience. She also used her newfound platform to champion inclusivity and diversity within Tesla. She spoke out against unconscious bias in hiring and promotion practices, advocating for a more equitable and supportive work environment for women and minorities in STEM fields. During one of her mentoring sessions with a quiet, young technician named Ben, who was struggling with the battery management system, Anya noticed his frustration. "It's like I'm speaking a different language," he mumbled, running a hand through his hair. Anya smiled, remembering her own initial struggles. "Think of it not as a language, but as a puzzle, Ben. Each component has a specific purpose, and the challenge is to figure out how they all fit together." She spent the next hour patiently explaining the system, breaking it down into smaller, more manageable pieces. By the end of the session, Ben's eyes lit up. "I think I get it now," he said, a grin spreading across his face. "Thanks, Anya. You have a way of making things understandable." That moment, seeing Ben's newfound confidence, was deeply gratifying for Anya. That IT validated her belief that everyone, regardless of their background or experience, had the potential to learn and grow. However, Anya knew that changing the corporate culture wouldn't be easy. There were still pockets of resistance, individuals who clung to old ways of thinking and resisted the idea of second chances. She encountered subtle forms of sexism and condescension, whispers behind her back questioning her capabilities and her right to be in her position. But Anya refused to be intimidated. She had proven her worth, not just with her technical expertise, but with her unwavering determination and her commitment to helping others. During a particularly tense meeting with the head of manufacturing, a man known for his gruff demeanor and his skepticism towards the Second Chance program, Anya presented a proposal to streamline the battery production process. He listened intently, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, That's surprisingly insightful. Sharma, that I didn't think you had it in you." Anya met his gaze, her voice steady. "I may have taken a different path to get here, but I'm just as capable as anyone else in this room." The head of manufacturing nodded slowly, a flicker of respect in his eyes. "Fair enough," he said. "Let's implement your proposal. See what you can do." Anya left the meeting feeling a surge of quiet satisfaction. She knew that changing perceptions took time, but she was making progress, one conversation, one project, one success story at a time. She was not just inspiring millions on the outside. She was also inspiring change from within, proving that second chances weren't just good for individuals, they were good for business. The ripple effect of her journey was only just beginning.